Are you doing this because of money? And sometimes doctors aren't graceful. They will shame you. But all I was thinking about at that time was I didn't want to have to start over. Do you like taking care of sick people? It's not about, oh, I like the sciences, oh, I like biology, oh, I like chemistry, oh, I like physics. Do you like taking care of sick people? If I look like a gypsy, don't clown me in the comments. I thought it looked cute, okay? Yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Shawna. If you're not new, thank you for coming back. So, this one, this is kind of funny. Disclaimer. The purpose of this video is not to discourage somebody from doing something that they've always wanted to do and have been unsure. The purpose of this video is to help somebody who has been thinking about it, but they don't really know what they want to do with their life. And maybe their parents are like, oh, just go do med, go be a doctor. Doctors will always have jobs. That's how they got me too. There will always be sick people in the world. Or maybe you were good in the sciences or you like biology, they didn't like chemistry, and you're like, all right, maybe I could go be a doctor. And you're just on the fence about it. You just finished high school and you're trying to decide like what you should do if you're going to Upper 6 to the Cape, if you're going straight to university or whatever it is. You don't know what you want to do with your life yet. This wasn't a childhood dream for you to become a doctor. Or you're already over here and you started, or you're already in med school and you started and it isn't going the way that you thought it would, and you're questioning if this is for you. I'm talking to you in this video. Let's have a big sister chat that I wish I had somebody to talk to it about that wasn't an invested parent. So recently when I posted my travel with me vlog coming back to Cuba, a subscriber DM'd me and was essentially saying she loved the content and everything, but she wanted to ask me a question. And I was like, yeah girl, shoot. Like, I always respond to like whatever messages and thing you guys send me. And she asked if I regretted coming to Cuba. And when I read the message, I was like, that girl here is this girl's strong though. Like, why would you ask me that? Like, that's such a, why would you ask me that? That's such a loaded question, like, damn. But I will always appreciate people like that, because if you want to know something, ask. I've always said that if there's something that you would like to know, ask that question. A girl after my own heart, believe in questions. And the response that I gave her was the short answer, yes, but not because of what she thinks. And she was saying I didn't look as excited or as enthusiastic to be going back to Cuba in the video, and she was wondering if like there was a reason for that, like if I had regretted my decision and thing. And to be honest, it's not that I regret coming here to study, particularly, like it wasn't about the place. I regret doing my course of study. I regret doing med. And that's why this video is for if you are unsure. I'm going to talk about the reasons that I regretted, or I regret, because they're constant things, doing med, and my whole explanation for it and the breakdown. That's what all of this video is going to be. So I hope you guys will keep watching. If that's something that you're interested in, I'm going to break it down for you. Now, the problem with it is your first 2 years of med school are spent in a classroom. So essentially it's like you're doing exams. It's regular schooling that you've been used to and you've been cultured to doing. You've been cultured to for years. You sit down in the classroom, the teacher gives a lecture or explains or teaches something to you. Over here they do it on the chalkboard and everything same way. Break it down. It's basically a glorified high school for the first 2 years. And you do your exams, you have weekly tests, and that's the long and short of it. Majority of it is spent in a classroom. The most you'll deal with like patients is when we have courses every semester as it relates to like where you go to a clinic and the doctors kind of send you out to do pesquisa, which is like I've described it before as like where you're, to my mom, I've described it as essentially we're being sent out, like where you would see like Jehovah's Witnesses would come to your houses. Or questions are do you have any problems with dengue? Have you been having any fever or anything like that? And we get the data and bring it back. That's the most exposure that you'll have to like a patient. Or you stay in a polyclinic and the doctor is dealing with a patient and you're just kind of observing and they don't keep you there for long. I would never complain about that. Thank for every doctor that never keep you there for long. Thank you. They don't keep you there for long and then you get sent home usually early. So usually those are our favorite days because we don't have to stay at school long. You're there for like 2 hours tops and then you buy your house by like 10, 11 o'clock. Now, in those 2 years, I feel like those are kind of the pivotal years because most of the times that's when people will be having the hardest issues with passing exams and things and are questioning if this is the right course for them. I've mentioned this before in some video or next that essentially I repeated first year. And the reason for that, I know I wasn't really focused, like I wasn't paying attention. I was very lost. I was passing all of my grades for the semester and I had great grades for the semester. But when it came down to final year, the final exams, I wasn't studying. I wasn't studying to the level that you have to study at if you want to be a medical student over here. I was waiting last minute because I had friends that all they needed was two nights, 2 day and night of no sleep before the exam. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say two day and nights of no sleep before the exam, and they would consume everything. They would go through every single slide throughout the semester, learn it, and go into that exam and get 4s and 5s. And I thought that that was doable for me. It was not, because I am not like them. And my mom explained that to me a lot too. There will always be people like that you encounter in the world. And sometimes there are people who you don't get things as quickly. I was one of those people. You have to learn things by repetition. You have to make sure that you understand it. Once I understand something, I can explain it back to you. But you can't understand that much content of information in such a short period. Some people can, but a lot of people can't. And so exams went poorly for me and I had to repeat the year. And I had a lot of emotions about it, but it was just something I had to suck it up and do. And at that point, it was more so of a thing where there's something I want to mention. When that happened, somebody that was my friend at that point had said, like, before exams even happened, I think maybe I didn't pass like the first one or whatever, and they're like, you're gonna repeat the year anyways, like you're not passing this year or whatever. And it really bothered me at the time because I was like, why would you say that to somebody, especially somebody that's supposed to be your friend? And it wasn't something that they were saying out of good intention or something. It was just like a tactless thing to say, however. And it kind of shifted my mindset from, oh, XYZ, like me being sad, all of that jazz. It bothered me, but it was more so of me now being like, all right, now I have something to prove. Now I have something to prove. It didn't work because I did repeat the year. But that year of me repeating, I was like, nah, there's not the same now, because now I have to prove that I'm just as good as the other people who are here and studying. I have to make sure I set my grades and everything and exams go, all of that and thing, because now I need to pass. There was no way for me to catch up with that group because that would have been my original group, and that's not how it works over here. But I would still be passing the years and doing all that I need to do to show that I am not a failure. The problem with that is the following year came when I repeated the year, and there was an exam that I studied so hard for because it was a really hard exam, and it was one of those exams that I didn't want to have to go back and do the second sitting, because over here we get 3 chances at like exams. I did not want to have to do the second sitting. I wanted to pass on the first go because that exam was no joke. I did the first one, I didn't pass. I literally broke down on the phone with my mother. Like, I called her and I had never broken down about anything. Like, this is the first shape I hear my ball over something like that. Like, it can really break you, the pressure and the effort that you put out, especially when you really, really want something and it doesn't go your way. And I remember breaking down on the phone and my mom saying to me, listen, it's okay. If you want to come home, you can come home. It doesn't make sense that you just kill off yourself to become a doctor and everything, and then I lose my daughter in the process. And I was like, okay. But all I was thinking about at that time was I didn't want to have to start over, because prior to coming to Cuba, I went to NCU, which is if you aren't Jamaican, is a university in Jamaica, and I was there for like 2 years. So I was like, nah, most of my friends at that point would have been in final year from my OG school, and they would have already either been graduating or would have been in final year. So I was like, that was all I was thinking about. I was like, I don't want to start over. It's just gonna be me. I don't have anybody to like start. Even if I was to transfer school and think there's no one that I could start with or anything, I'd be starting over. And I was so afraid of what that would mean for me. And the judgment and everything that was going to come. I was afraid of the shame of being like, oh, when I go home, I go to church and everybody's like, oh, you're back, and you have to explain, yeah, well, it never worked out. Those are the things I was thinking about. And because of all of that judgment, I let it get to me, and I was like, no, it's okay, I'll continue. Knowing that this was not something that I even chose for myself from the start. When I graduated high school, my plan was to do law. Everything in high school had led up to that point where I was going to be a lawyer. I was so sure of myself. I never did the sciences in high school. I did like bio and I did like HSB, but I didn't do like chem. I did physics. I didn't do chem. I sucked in chem. I was so bad in chem. But literally from the start of high school right up until the end, I knew I wanted to do law. When I graduated, that's not what ended up happening. And it was more so of something that I referenced from the start, where I was like, my parents were like, oh, all the lawyers they don't know any lawyers that have jobs. There is like, the field is so oversaturated and everything. And doctors will never run out of a job. We don't want you to graduate and then you can't get any work as a lawyer. Doctors, you will never not have sick people. We think you should do this. And I was like, obviously, by that point when you graduate high school, you're like 17, 16, thereabouts. You have been trusting your parents' decision for the entirety of your life. There's nothing else that you know more than your parents. There are people that you trust. You're going to trust that they know you enough to go with that. And I made that mistake of going with it. I knew I did not like the sciences, but I was always capable of doing it throughout high school, except for chem. I was always capable of doing it. I always got good enough grades in the sciences. I remember literally my mentality at the time was, well, I guess I can do it. Like, I'm capable of doing it. It's not something that I can't do. I can do the sciences. I don't like doing the sciences, but I can do it. So, sure. And from that, the focus shifted from the arts and the science and the arts and law, all those things that I had been focused on for so long, to know the sciences, which I genuinely knew I never liked. I never liked doing labs. I didn't put much effort into it. All of that was deemed as boring to me. But I was like, I could do it. Why not? It's whatever. I left NCU after 2 years because I felt like I was wasting my time. While I was there, I was doing a biochemistry degree. I hated it. I hated it. I was not invested in classes or anything like that, but it was coursework and final exam. And there, even if you didn't pass the final exam, if your coursework grade was good enough, you passed in the course. It was like standard university in Jamaica. That's not the case over here. You have to pass your final exam to be able to move on. And if you don't pass your final exam, it doesn't matter how good your course grades are, you're not moving on. That's why it's 3 chances you get to final exam over here. Now that I'm giving you that backstory, and we're leading up to know what I've told you in second year, third year is completely different from first and second year. Third year, you are basically thrown into a hospital. They just drop you in there and it's expected that you know what to do. There is a course in second semester of second year where like they teach you how to examine a patient. You don't physically do it on a patient. Literally, it's like a resume of things or a summary of things of like, oh, you start with like the physical interrogation, and then there's a physical examination, and then you're supposed to like start with the cranial, and then the cara, which is like your head, and then your face, and then you go down and then you look at whatever, and PL mucosa, like the skin and the mucus and everything. But it doesn't really, sitting down and learning that in a classroom in like a lecture form, it's nothing compared to when you're actually standing up in front of a patient. It's nothing like it. I also want to make a reference to a lot of people go into med because they're like, oh, I like the sciences. People will approach me and be like, do you think I should do med and thing? And what I will always ask you, do you like taking care of sick people? It's not about, oh, I like the sciences, oh, I like biology, oh, I like chemistry, oh, I like physics. Do you like taking care of sick people? Because honestly, none of that matters. Yes, there's a lot of reading and bio and all of that is in there. There's intricacies of that. However, do you like taking care of sick people? Because really, that's what it is. Medicine, once I started, was nothing like what you see on Grey's Anatomy. Yes, sometimes there are interesting cases, but it's not always like that fast-paced environment, especially when you're just starting out. In third year, you're starting in internal medicine. You get thrust into a ward on, over here we call it Sala. And your very first day, you're assigned to a bed, you get a patient. Nobody not explaining to you, oh, you do nothing. They're expecting that you learn how to do it from that course in second semester in second year. Nobody now stand up with you and show you like, all right, start here, ask the patient to lay down flat on the bed. And you start here, you must ask the patient this, get patient history, get all of this. No one is teaching you that in person on your first day. It's just expected that you know that. My first day, I was lucky enough where Abby was there with me. Y'all know Abby. Abigail was with me my first day, even though we're not in the same year anymore. And I asked her to come with me to do my patient because I was petrified because I don't know what to do. And she stood there with me and was like showing me and explaining to me like what do I do and everything. And then she also stayed with me when I had to write it up in the docket, because there's a specific way how you're supposed to write like the patient information up in the docket, which they do not teach you. It is assumed that you know. And then at the end of that first day, the doctor does rounds and you have to go and present your patient in front of this doctor. Again, nobody in the teacher often do that. So you're extremely nervous. You're allowed to read. I think we were allowed to read for like the first day and thing, and it's just nerve-wracking everything. Sometimes doctors aren't graceful. They will shame you. And they don't feel no remorse or anything like that. And they just destroyed all of your confidence because obviously they've been doing this for years and it's your first day and you don't want to mess up, but you don't know what to do, so you're nervous and you're feeling all of these emotions and everything. They don't care because you're another number. Every semester is a new set of people. Every year it's a new set of people. They've been doing this for years and everything, so at some point the compassion kind of goes away. This is not me trying to terrify anybody. I'm just giving you the truth. You go up through the year and you kind of get the hang of things after, I would say, a month. I was told it was after 2 weeks. It wasn't no after 2 weeks. I was still petrified at the end of the month. At the end of the month, you kind of get used to it and you learn like how things go and everything. Every single rotation that you go on, there's a different way to write the patient information in the docket. When you go to fourth year, you're dealing with kids. It's peds. There's a different way every single rotation as it relates to peds as you deal with kids. There's a different way that every single doctor wants their patient information written up. So you're always learning, you're always reassessing. It's terrifying every single year because you're dealing with new people, you're dealing with residents, you're dealing with interns. Sometimes they're not nice people. It's very different from what I thought it was going to be. And I think when a lot of people start med, they're so excited about that and they don't really understand like what comes with it. It's hard. I remember starting med school and people being like, oh, it made it hard and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, I can handle it. You don't really understand what it is that you're getting into. And that's always something that bothered me. Because to really explain that to somebody, I feel like how I was convinced to do it, my parents were like, I was like, yeah, I could do the sciences and think it's not a problem and thing. My parents were like, oh, you need a practical job and thing. They don't see me doing law because they don't see me being tied up in an office every day behind a desk with a bag of paperwork and sitting down reading all of this information. There are how many case files and things that you have to read and go through. They don't see me doing that. They don't see me really doing like clerk work like that. Let me tell you something. Apart from the reading that you have to do with the textbooks, let me show you. Hold on. This is my PEDS textbook. This is one textbook for the entire semester. Essentially, I'm doing this because this is the entire system as it relates to a child. So we didn't get any resumens or anything or any summaries for this year. We just have to read from the textbook. And every rotation, sometimes you just have a rotation for a week. That's a whole chapter or two of information that's in this book. And then we have to sit or test at the end of the semester. We're supposed to always be reading. The doctors assume that you know things because you're supposed to always be reading in the night. And you're supposed to give up sleep because you're a med student and everything. And if you don't know things, they're going to shame you and you're going to feel dunce and you're going to feel like you want to cry. And that's a horrible feeling. But I was still piled up with reading anyways. The practical work that you're doing, it's not so practical. Every day I go to the hospital and I go and I check on my patient. I ask them how their night was. I asked if they urinated and they defecated bien, if they're eating properly, if they had any pain or if anything different from the day before. And it's literally that. There's an 8 a.m. write-up, there's a 12 p.m. write-up, and then there's a 2 o'clock write-up, depending on what ward you're on. Sometimes it's an 8 a.m. write-up, at 8 a.m. write-up, a 2 p.m. write-up, a 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. write-up, and it goes so on and so on of just updated information. You, as a student, and even as a doctor, an established doctor, you're the one that's writing that up. You're the one going, doing the interview, gathering all of that information, sitting down and writing them, and you're doing it for multiple beds at a time. So this notion where they didn't see me doing clerk work or with this heap stacks of papers and everything and all of that, just you're doing it anyways. You're not skipping it, you're doing it anyways. I like to say we're basically glorified clerks. As medical students, we're basically glorified clerks because we're always writing. We're always writing. The most you will do as it relates to a practical thing on a patient is to take their blood pressure, is to take their cardiac frequency, is to do the physical examination, which is literally just you there touching them, pulling down, checking their mucus, touching their abdomen and making sure there's no visceromegalia or anything like that. That's the most that you're doing for a really long time. You're observing a lot of the times even when it's surgeries and certain procedures and things, you're just standing up and looking what the doctor is doing. And then you go home and you read and you see, you examine everything like that. It's not this hands-on thing that a lot of people think it is. And some universities, it is that, but it takes a while before you get there. Is this something that you are absolutely sure that you want to do? Again, it's not, oh, I like the sciences, I can handle it or everything like that. Do you like taking care of sick people? Because something that a lot of people don't consider in it. You're taking care of sick people, you're gonna get sick. Promise you. I literally know somebody, every time when they've had to do a rotation on the respiratory ward, them get sick all 5 times. You're going to get sick because you're exposed to people who are sick. Are you okay with that? Are you okay when you are sick, or do you hate it? Is that a case where you're miserable every time you get sick and you can't handle it? I know people who despise being sick. I am one of the people there. Those are things that you need to consider. Are you okay with sick people? Are you okay with gross situations? Something that definitely grossed me out, and I remember it was on Guardia. It was a man, and he was in his late 80s. He didn't have any family, and I got that bed. I pulled the short straw. He didn't have any family. I don't remember what his situation was. I think it was he had bronchopneumonia, and the thing is, in older people, the symptoms show up differently. So essentially, it's almost like they go into, I keep thinking in Spanish, I was supposed to be it's almost like they go into a estupor or something like that. They're not fully in a coma, but they can't respond to you. So they will respond to certain stimuli. So if it's pain that you're inflicting on them, they will respond. But it has to be some intense stimuli for them to respond to you. Remind you, I have to take this man's history. I have to interview him and ask okay, do you have any past problems? Are you asthmatic? Do you have high blood pressure? I'm trying to think of the other things. Are you diabetic? All those different things that would lead into factors into how we would treat them. I can't ask him that because he's not in alert state at this point in time. And the nurses were dealing with him, I remember, and we walked into the room and it smelled like poop. And I didn't smell it the same time, but I remember I was with Heidi and she kept saying it. She was like, "And you smell like," and I was like, "No, what are you talking about? I don't smell anything." And I was helping her deal with her patient and thing. And then after, the scent got extremely strong. And then like we turned around inside because they didn't have like it was a big room with like 4 beds on each side. And there are no partitions or curtains or anything like that. And when we turned around, the guy was messing himself. And obviously that's not something that he can control because one, he's not in a conscious and alert state, and he's also older. He didn't have any clothes on. It was just a bare bed, and it was just happening. That was so gross. And it's not even a case where I'm not trying to have compassion or anything, but I'm just trying to explain to you, those are some of the things that you experience as a med student that you don't really think about it before. You think always, oh, it's going to be like Grey's Anatomy. It's going to be all these exciting cases where it's people who are able to take care of themselves, able to do whatever and help themselves. All people who always have families. It's not always those cases. And the thing with it is, there in that particular ward that we were on, there's AC. So literally for the rest of the time that we had guardia, which would have been duty, the place smelled like that. I am so freaking sensitive. I am so freaking sensitive. I remember going home and like venting to my mom about it. And the thing with it, I was getting annoyed because I was like, my mom was grossed out, mind you. And I was like, you would never do this. You would never do this. Why would you want your daughter to do this? Like, it's different things. Something else that it's not like as it relates to the gross side. In my first semester of 3rd year, I was in internal medicine. There was a gentleman that came in and he had icteria, which is basically like a yellow pigmentation of the skin. Sometimes it's caused by liver problems. A lot of times it's caused by problems with your hemoglobin not breaking down properly, and it accumulates and now your skin is yellow, right? But it indicates to some internal problem that could be caused by whatever. Different causes, look it up. When this man came in, this man was thick and strapping and he was maybe like in his 50s or 40s or thing, but the man, he was very tall and just thick and thing. He came in with his family and everything, and he was admitted on the ward. Throughout the remainder of the semester, I watched this man go from this big, thick man who was fit and chubby and fat and everything, dwindle down to a stick. Literal nothing. A stick. And it bothered me so much. If your stomach is not strong enough to those things, it blew my mind. Because by the end of the semester, I literally remember calling my mom and being like, "Mommy, there's this man, and from when we started, this guy just got admitted. And mommy, if you see the guy now in comparison to when we just started, sickness is scary." If that's not something that you're okay with seeing, or you have some form of ability to be able to detach from certain things and just know that you're treating the patient, a lot of times it's heartbreaking. There are times when people talk about how there might be a patient that you really, really like, and it doesn't turn out how you want it to turn out for them, and then this person is gone. It doesn't just hit them family, you as a person who's treating them, it hits you too. That hasn't happened to me yet. I haven't had a patient die. I haven't had one of my patients die yet. But yeah, these are all things that I wanted to disclose. They're not things that are talked about. They're not things that are talked about. If you are getting into med because of the money, ain't no money in this. It's years before you see money, especially if you look into work in Jamaica. Something that I mentioned before, I said that my parents were like, doctors will never run out of jobs. Doctors will always have jobs because you will always have sick people. Last year, the Minister of Health was very much telling doctors that they must look for work outside of Jamaica because they ain't got no work to give them, and they ain't got no money to pay them. So yes, you can have enough doctors in the world. Also, I just want to mention that all the people who I went to high school with, who went to law school and became lawyers, all of them are employed. Every single one of them have work. And I have friends who are doctors who are complaining about not being able to get paid or having to look elsewhere for jobs at this point, or are just miserable on their ward. I know people who went to med school and everything and have finished, and they're just like, yeah, run. One of my close friends did med school and is finished and is working, and she'll look at me and be like, girl, don't do this. And I'm like, girl, you telling me too late? I'm already here. I'm already in it. Like, it's too late for me to change now. Again, the purpose of this video is not to discourage somebody who this has been their dream from the start and they're so enamored and infatuated with the idea of being a doctor, and this is something that they've always wanted, and you're prepared to deal with all of this and everything. This is for somebody who's thinking about it and is unsure. I'm trying to give you the real nitty-gritty of what it is and to be realistic. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I'm just trying to tell y'all, actually, it is not all rainbows, sunshines, and scalpels. Something that I realized this year, with the further I get, like, and the deeper that I get into dealing with hospitals and different rotations and dealing with interns and dealing with residents and dealing with doctors. I started this year on one of the harder rotations in pediatrics in ADA, which basically means enfermedad, diarrhea aguda, babies who have diarrhea. The man that runs ADA is just unnecessarily hard for no reason. He was this short ass man. Ain't nothing wrong with short men. We love short men over here. This short ass man that was just bitter. He reminds me of any character that I would see cast in a Christmas film as the head elf. That's exactly what he looked like. My nickname for him was Elf to my friends in class and thing. He literally, I called him Elf. I did out to know him name, I refer to him as Elf. That man was unnecessarily hard. Whenever we're writing up in the docket, there's a specific way that he wants the information written. You can't use any abbreviations, even though we've been doing that for the entire year before from the start. And even though every other rotation in peds now that I'm on, they don't require that you write out everything. It has to be written out completely. If you make a mistake, you can't draw a line through the word or put a bracket over it and put digo beside it to say what you actually meant to say. You have to tear that page out and you have to start from scratch. If you make one mistake, you have to write the entire thing. He was just unnecessarily hard for no reason. And the thing with him is, I remember one day we came on the ward and what it was like somebody didn't write up the docket or something that was supposed to be included in it, like a historia. So you're supposed to go to the patient when a patient is newly admitted and get all their personal information and their socioeconomic information and everything and include it in the docket. It's something that has to be written up. Sometimes we don't have the paper for it. Them that have the paper forgive you neither. And so sometimes it doesn't get done, right? I think that was missing from one of the dockets, and maybe like one of the interns or whatever said to him like, hey, one of the fourth years didn't do what they needed to do for this and now it's missing. And I think either one of the residents or somebody, either the residents or the intern, they had the paper and they started writing it up and thing. And the man come on the sala and thing and lectured, I think it was a resident, and was like, you're not supposed to be doing this. That is the job of the fourth years. You as a doctor, this is not what you are supposed to do. You not doing this. That is almost like he was saying it was beneath them. I don't like that. I don't like that. Cause like, you're not gonna like someone to not get paid for it. Like, you're not at work. Like, the hierarchy system is something, so many doctors seem to have ego problems, and that is not cute. And it seems to be like a running theme, because even my friends in Jamaica are telling me like it's the same thing with the doctors over there. Y'all seem to have a God complex. That is not really a working environment that inspires me. And I've spoken to my mom about this so many times and think I don't like that. And my mom was saying that it doesn't matter what field you're in, you're going to encounter that, especially if it's a case where like the person who's a superior to you has more years on you or is older than you. That's how they act. Like, literally, one of my friends, we were dealing with a teacher, and this time it was a woman, and she was trying to explain to her. The lady was even listening to what she was saying. She was like, yeah, ¿cuántos años tú tienes? Basically, like, how old are you? Yeah. You're 20. She didn't even make her answer. She's not 20, by the way. You're 20. I'm 55. There was no follow-up after that. As if that was It's infuriating. It's so annoying, and it happens way too much. Like, I'm noticing that seems to be like a running trend. The interns don't want to do jack, the residents don't want to do jack and thing, and then they throw in attitude left, right, and center because apparently we're unpaid slaves. As we're literally paying school fee and think to be treated as unpaid slaves, and them that actually getting paid money and think them not interested in doing absolute bare minimum, and then they sit down and complain to the doctors who are in charge of us that we're lazy. And I'm just like, really? You said that we lazy? Okay. That's a running theme over here, and apparently it never goes away. So you need to have a thick skin. This is something that you're going to do because you're going to ball enough. Not even just school alone are going to cause you for ball. Exams are going to cause you to ball your eyes out, because I am not. If you ask any of my friends, anybody that grew up with me or knows me, I am not somebody that is easily or is emotional. It takes a lot for me to be emotional. You're not going to see me sit down and cry like that. Like, I don't break down easily. The amount of tears I have cried in this country. The amount of tears I have cried since I started med school. I was never somebody that bawled over school before. But listen, they will break you, and it's like they take joy in breaking you. They take joy in making your life hard for no reason. And it's not just over here. Every time I talk to my friends that did med school in Jamaica too, they're like, yeah, exams, it's not for the weak. Medical exams, it's not for the weak. It's a lot for you to cover, and a lot of times it's expected that you know something. Sometimes you get exam on things they're not even teach you. But oh, you were supposed to read it because there was a whole thing of what you need to get through for exams before exams come. They didn't give no lecture. Them never mention it, but it depends on the exam paper. Last thing I want to mention, guardias. Your guardias get longer every year that you get further into med. So now I'm in 4th year. I think my guardias are, it's supposed to be from 4 to 10. So it's supposed to be 6 hours. A lot of times they send us home by like 8 o'clock thereabouts. There's 2 things I want to talk about as it relates to guardias. Again, the further up you go, the longer your guardias are, the more serious they are. You have to have a certain amount at the end of the semester for your exams and all of that and everything, right? There's also the fact of, I recently had a guardia. And this happens with every course that you study. There are always going to be people in your class that you don't vibe with. Like that. And I have a video coming up on this. I'm not going to disclose it. But I have a video coming up on this that I'm going to talk about like this further and thing. But I recently had a guardia where I went, and it was all of my friends, my close friends in class, that we got sent up to the respiratory ward, and we had to do like or guardia or duty. So we had to be there for a couple hours and like write up the dockets for the patients there from like 4 in the evening until like 8 in the night. So we done school from like 12 and we got sent home, and then now we have to come back for the guardia. And with all my friends on the ward and thing, that was the best guardia I've ever done. It was great. We divided up our work. We did it. We sat down, we wrote who need for help who, and it was teamwork makes the dream work and everything. And you going through and you doing it, and it's great. The beer joke, me laugh till me ball, like tears coming to my eyes. It was great. Like, I had so much fun. The hours went by. We done our work quick and everything, and then we were able to go home. It was so great because it was a team of people that I am able to communicate with. We get each other, and we were working so well with each other, and that was okay. You're going to be in class with people that you're not going to like. And it doesn't matter what course that you are doing. That always seems to be the case. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're always going to encounter on people that you don't like. Also in the working world, my mother has always said that. That's something that's going to happen too. You're not going to always find people that you like. But this field is a lot harder when it's a case where you're working with people that you don't like. So again, if it's a case where bitchy residents, bitchy interns, which we have experienced both at this point in this semester. Funny enough, is the rotation with kids. Some of them just bitchy for no reason. And I think that's so funny. But yeah, there are people in your class that don't want to do work, and you end up having to deal with their work. So they purposely come to school late, or they don't come to guardias, and now that work falls on you. Or they come to guardia at the end of the guardia just to get the signature, and you did all of the work and they didn't do anything. And it don't make sense. You rat them out. You can if you want, but why would you want to be a snitch in university? Don't be that guy. And that's just really how life be. Then there are also people who are going through your course and they're just kind of coasting through and they stay cheating. Or this course is not this glamorized thing that you are always think it's going to be. There's also the overachievers who want to make you feel bad because you don't know something. And there's always, forever, from primary school, from prep school, from kindergarten, there's always going to be the teacher's pet. Just be prepared to ignore them. These are all things that you're going to deal with. Med school is not a walkover. And again, to finish this off, the purpose of this video is not to discourage anybody who your lifelong dream has been to be a doctor. This is to talk to somebody who maybe you have an out. Maybe you have an out and you're not sure if you should take it. Do you enjoy this career? Or do you stand up on wards? Do you stand up during rounds and questions are being asked and you're blank and you're thinking, this is not it. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. Also, when you're doing rounds, you're standing up for like 2 hours at a time on your feet. You can't sit down. They're not allowing you to sit down 2 hours at a time. While the doctor is interviewing the patients and asking questions and everything, and maybe if you're the one presenting your course, then you'll stand up and you're being drilled with questions and everything. And it's like this every single day. You come home and your feet will kill you. You come home and your feet are burning you. Doctors shaming you and everything, embarrassing you in front of people. You make sure you have a thick skin. Are you sure that this is what you want to do? If you are unsure now and you are in second or first year and you know you have an out, maybe your parents are saying, yo, come home, it's fine. If you don't want to do it, if you want to get out early. Take the out. Don't be afraid of what anybody is going to say. It's not their life. You're the one that's going to have to live it. You're the one that might end up too far down now. Know that this is not something that you want to do, but know you just need to finish your degree because it's too late now in your mind to start over, and you just need to finish your degree because too much money has been invested. Take it from somebody who's been there. Take it from somebody who's been there and who knows this is not something that I'm going to be doing long term. I told my parents multiple times, I might give them 5 years at most. I'm not even sure if I'm specializing. Because the thing is that people keep telling me, oh, it gets better when you specialize. You won't have to deal with the public sector and all of that and everything. Okay, but for me to specialize, I have to go and give how much more years towards school, towards this again, and then hope I get patients and everything, and hope I can run a successful practice, and hope or if I don't want to do that, I can get a good job and everything. If this wasn't your idea from the start and you're going through and it's just not, you don't feel it, you keep feeling that panicking feeling like, I don't want to do this, listen to that voice. Have a conversation with your parents. If they don't listen, just stop. Just tell them that you're not coming back. Tell them that you're not going back. That's an option. That was an option I wish I took a long time ago. But yeah. Again, the purpose of this video is not to discourage somebody from pursuing their dreams. If there's something that you know that you want, go for it. There are people who are in med school who are thriving. Even the people who are thriving, I hear them complain from time to time as well. But it is the hardship that you have to go through, and no one is sympathetic to you, especially the other doctors, because they've been through it. And there are a lot of doctors that feel like because they went through the hard period, they need to make your life hell because that's just the way it goes. A lot of them aren't interested in changing the way how things have been. You just need to prepare yourself for that. The question that I will always have you ask, is this something that you want to do? You want to do med? Is this something that you are absolutely sure you want to do? Yes. Do you like taking care of sick people? Yes. Are you doing this because of money? Don't do it. Take it from me. Doctors don't get paid jack unless, one, you're going to migrate, or you're willing to specialize and throw in a couple more millions and a couple more years before you start to see serious revenue. And I promise you, if you're doing it just for money, if you have to have some form of passion to deal with all of the crap that comes with it, I promise you, because it is not a walk in the park. Finally, are you okay with offensive smells? Do you see yourself being able to deal with people and the 1,000,001 questions and dealing with the mean residents and the mean interns and the annoying classmates and mean doctors and the rotations where you just cannot stand it, but you still have to suck it up and do the work? Or difficult patients? I will say, maybe when you're doing like 6th year or whenever you have the actual guardias where it's 24-hour guardias, yes, those exist in your final year. You have to do 24-hour guardias. So you're done school from maybe, let's say, no, you start school 8 a.m. in the morning and you have guardia for that entire day. So you have to go straight downstairs. Ain't no lectures or anything like that. You have to go straight downstairs from 8 a.m. in the morning and you don't get off until 8 a.m. the next day. That's you sleeping at the hospital for the entire night, dealing with patients throughout the night that might be coming and telling you what drugs they want that you need to administer to them so that they could feel better. You, the doctor, yes, that's the thing that happens over here. What drugs they would like to be treated with because maybe they're trying to get their high on or whatever, and you might be tired and can't bother, and that's just the way them deal with it over here. Them just administer the drugs because they can't get serious drugs like that over here. Different things. Are you that type of person that can handle all of that situation? Can you handle the foolishness? Can you suppress screaming doctors screaming at you and mistreatment and all of those stuff? Are those things that you as a person can handle? Because there are things that you're going to have to experience. If it is that your life decision is to become a doctor, if you are watching this and you are unsure of what you want to do and people keep telling you, just do what you like, and you don't know what that is, because that was me for a really long time, don't just jump into med school. Explore different things. Pick a course that seems interesting to you for university and then go do it. If it's not what you thought it was after a year or 2 years, drop it and change your major. Or maybe you want to work for a while until you're absolutely sure of what it is you want to do. I think that's something that needs to be changed in society, where once you leave high school, you have to do some years experiencing certain things or whatever, shadowing in whatever things. Like, it should be a case where we're exposed to different jobs and seeing what they're like for like at least a couple months, like a year, where you just rotate on different occupations and things, and then you view it and then you choose what it is you want to apply to study in university. Because when we're done high school, we don't have a sense. You're not even done being a teenager to be able to decide what it is you want to do for the rest of your life. I've come out of the mentality where it's like, once you go to school, that's exactly what you have to work in. That's why I keep saying I just try to finish school. None of my friends that did what they studied in, they're not working in their field. None of them. I have multiple friends that are biochemists. They're not working in labs as biochemists at all. I have friends that did computer sciences. That's not what they're doing with their life right now. I have friends that did psychology. They're not psychologists right now. It does not determine what you're going to do in life. That is not your final stage. That is not your final mold. I know people who did nursing and they're not being nurses, because nurses, teachers are amongst the list of people that do not get paid enough in Jamaica for the foolishness that they have to deal with, and I will always support them. So, again, do not pick medicine just because you like the sciences. My number one question, do you like taking care of sick people? And I leave you with that. This was kind of a heavier video. I know it's long, I apologize. If you know somebody who's struggling with this decision and if they should or shouldn't go to med school, send this to them, share this with them. Please like this video, please subscribe if you're a new viewer, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks for sticking with me for so long. Sorry I dropped so much heavy-ish on you, but I hope to see you guys in my next one. Bye.